My name's Tom and welcome to Historic Cooking. Each episode we look at a recipe from the past and then I make a modern version of it. This week we are looking at a World War II recipe. We're looking at sausage rolls. I've also made a few variations of modern day versions, including some vegetarian and some vegan ones as well. We found this recipe in an army cookbook / recipe book from the Herbert's collection. This book was found in a loft in Radford, Coventry. The book dates back to 1941. So we believe the book was written by Private J.J. Calcott. All the recipes in this book were written to feed 100 men, which is why we have scaled the recipe down. This book is about 120 pages long, and it is all handwritten as well. It has a load of illustrations and a huge range of different recipes. We will have links in the description of other recipes that you can find in this book as well if you would like to check them out. The book has some really amazing recipes, but the one that really jumped out to me was sausage rolls, purely because I've made so many when I had my own cafe. So the ingredients that we have for this historic recipe, we have bread, we have some fatty beef, and we also have some lean beef. We've got our puff pastry, and then we've got our seasoning as well. We've got salt, pepper, mace, mustard seeds, coriander seeds, nutmeg, and a pinch of ginger. As we said, the recipe is for 100 men, so I've had to scale back the recipe quite a bit. Those are our ingredients, super simple. So first of all, we are going to tear the bread up, mix it with the beef, add some water and the seasoning, mix that all up with our hands, and then we're going to put it through a grinder twice. If you want to try this recipe as well, if you want to, you can just buy pre-ground beef, but we've actually got some beef chunks that we're going to grind ourselves. So we're going to mix our beef with the spices and the bread, and then we're going to pass it through our grinder. I've just got a mixer which has got a grinder attachment. So we're going to pop all of our beef into here, all of our spices, tear this bread up and pop it in. Okay, so I'm also now going to add the water, and then we're just going to mix it with our hands just so everything's incorporated. I believe they put the meat through the grinder twice just to kind of help break up the fat and the sinew and make it more of the paste. You'll see the difference between the first grind and the second grind. This is how the mince looks like when it comes out the grinder for the first time. So we're now going to load the hopper back up and pass it through again. Now we are going to roll out the pastry and then fill it, and then we're going to pop it in the oven. So just using some shop bought pastry again for this recipe, so let's roll it out and then we'll fill it up, and we're just going to splodge it across, and then we're just going to crack one egg into the bowl and we're going to give it a little whisk, and then we're going to egg wash the pastry. I put the meat slightly closer to one edge rather than just in the center because we're going to fold it over and then crimp the side. We are just going to fold this side over onto the other side. And we're just going to shape it a little bit, like so. So we're just going to use a fork just to crimp this edge along here, just so that it sticks together. I'm just going to get a sharp knife, and we're just going to take some of that excess off, just to make it look a little bit prettier. Here is a little tip from me, which we're going to use. Rather than just pressing down on the pastry, we're just going to cut gently into it. This way you're going to get sharper, nicer edges in your sausage rolls. You could cut them however many you want. You can make smaller ones or you can make bigger ones. It's completely up to you. We're now going to pop these sausage rolls onto our baking tray, and then we're going to glaze them with the egg wash as well. So just gently. You don't want to cut into the sausage rolls before you put the egg wash on, because it'll close up that hole that you've just created. So now we're just going to score the pastry. I don't think it says that in the recipe, but I do know that it will help the pastry kind of puff up a little bit more. So they're kind of small, but we're just going to do 2 little cuts just so the pastry can rise. So we're now going to pop these into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. I think they look pretty good. We're going to let these, my mouth is just like watering like crazy right now. We're just going to let these cool down for a little bit and then we can try them. Yeah, that tastes pretty good. Not a massive fan of the seasoning. I'm not sure if it's coriander seeds or the mace.
Nice. It's unusual because I wouldn't really put beef in a sausage roll, or you wouldn't really see beef in a sausage roll today. You'd expect that porky kind of flavour rather than the beef. But it tastes alright. Like, I think compared to the other beef recipe we've tried, this is actually edible. So, but it's further ahead in time compared to the medieval stew, so I guess they knew a bit more what they were doing with spices.
It is surprisingly good. I would happily eat this as well. Beef is different, but you've got to make do with what you have access to in the army. It's a little bit of comfort food in a very badly needed environment.
The pastry is like a good kind of vessel to hold it with, and if their hands aren't too dirty, they can eat the pastry, but they could just eat the meat from the centre. That's the kind of like premise of Cornish pasties as well. Like the miners would have these pasties that they could hold and eat if it's not too dirty, if they just hold one bit, but then the main bit is the filling that's on the inside. Now let's have a go at making the modern day versions. They're quite simple and easy to make, so we're actually going to do quite a few different versions, so there's something for everyone really. We're going to first start off with a meaty sausage roll. We've just got some sausage meat, which you can buy as sausage meat in a pack. If you can't find it in your supermarket or you can't find it in your butcher's, just buy some good sausage that you would normally buy and then just hit the skins off, and then you got your sausage meat. So we're going to do a plain sausage roll with some homemade puff pastry. This recipe is from the Glory and Lil's cookbook. That is where I'm working. And they've released a cookbook over kind of lockdown, and they've got an amazing puff pastry recipe that you can go and check out. We'll put links down below. The other sausage roll that we're making today is sweet chili. Other flavourings that you can do with sausage rolls are things like black pudding. You could crisp up some bacon and put that in there. That's really nice. Bit of extra pork in your porky sausage roll. This modern day version of the recipe isn't too far off from the historic version. We have our meat, we have some pastry, and we have some eggs, and that's about it really for the recipe. This is my homemade puff pastry. I made it yesterday. It does take quite a while to make puff pastry, which is why I haven't done it for the other recipes that we did it, but it is kind of worth it. It is quite a bit different than the shop bought stuff, but it just takes a lot of patience. So if you do make this at home, you can make the puff pastry and pop it in the freezer, and then you just get it out probably the day before that you want to use it. This is half the block of pastry that I made because I'm going to use the other half for the vegetarian rolls as well. If you want to see me making the puff pastry, then head on over to my behind the scenes video, but because I'm getting it from a cookbook, you got to go and check out the cookbook. I'm not going to give out that secret recipe. So we've rolled out our puff pastry. We're going to break up this meat into half, and then we're just going to spread it out. If you want to, you can mix it up a bit, but it's already well mixed, so I just break it in half and then pop it down on my pastry. So we're going to roll up this sausage roll just a little bit different, just so you got other ways that you can roll up sausage rolls. Trim off these ends. I just like to make it look a little bit neater. What I do is add one whole egg and then one egg yolk. If you want to make it look a little bit more shiny and glossy, I recommend doing this. So like before, we're just going to brush one end, and then we're going to roll this, and then rather than crimping it up, we're just going to keep on rolling like this. We want to make sure that the seam is on the bottom, so that when it puffs up, that seam stays on the top, on the bottom, rather than opens out and then kind of like you get your sausage meat everywhere. We've just cut our sausage rolls. We're going to pop them onto a baking tray, and then we're just going to do 2 little cuts. So just so we know that these are the plain ones, we are going to put some nigella seeds on. I really like nigella seed, which is like also known as an onion seed, with the sausage rolls. So we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of that on. Okay, so we're just going to pop these on the back while we make the other sausage rolls. This is the shop bought pastry. We're just going to roll these out. We're now going to get a bowl for our meat, and we're going to put the sweet chili in and give that a good mix. So this is completely down to personal taste, but I like to put quite a bit of sweet chili in. It's easier and quicker just to use your hands, so that's what I'm going to do. For these sweet chili ones, we're just going to put a little bit of chili flakes on the top, just so that we know which one's which. We're going to pop both of these into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until they're cooked, so we will see you when they're done. These are our two types of meaty sausage rolls. We've got the classic here with our homemade puff pastry. You can see there is a bit of a difference. The homemade puff pastry is like puffed up a little bit more. You can see the lamination a lot better. These are our sweet chili ones with just the shop bought pastry, and they are smelling pretty delicious as well. For the modern day version, I also made a coleslaw, which you can find out on my channel at Knitsips. So we're just going to pop a little bit of coleslaw on the plate, just because it's delicious. This coleslaw is something as well that I used to make in my cafe quite a lot, and it's a little bit different to normal coleslaws. We actually made our own homemade mayonnaise to go with this coleslaw as well. So I'm just going to try the classic first with the homemade pastry. And that's a really good homemade sausage roll. Proper meat, proper pastry. The pastry is really buttery, kind of makes it a little bit more rich, but that's delicious. Making everyone jealous. I'm going to try the sweet chili one as well. Out of the two, I think I prefer this one. The little bit of heat that the chili gives you, and then the little bit of sweetness is really, really good.
So it smells absolutely delicious. I'm really looking forward to tasting this. I'll go for the classic one first, with the whole homemade pastry. Really buttery, really nice. The pastry kind of almost melts in the mouth, but in a good way. It's not soggy or anything, it's just really nice and yeah, just buttery. And the nigella seeds on top give it like a little bit of extra flavour that it might have not had otherwise. I'll try the chili one next, sweet chili one next. Really lovely. The extra flavour is amazing. The sweetness and the little bit of spice add to the sausage meat really, really nicely. Yeah, it's just delicious, really. Also, it's really nice and refreshing, so it gives it a bit of contrast to the quite buttery sausage roll.
That is so buttery and it has so much flavour. Pure comfort food compared to the Second World War one.
We're going to do two more different types of the modern day version of the recipe. We're going to do a vegan sausage roll, and we're also going to do a vegetarian sausage roll. We have got some breadcrumbs, we've got an egg, but if you're making the vegan version, swap it out for an alternative milk, something unsweetened like an oat milk or a soy if you like. We're going to use some olive oil, just because I prefer using olive oil. We've got an onion, mushroom, we've got some sage, sweet potato, parsnip, a little bit of salt, and some chestnuts. And then what we're going to do for the vegetarian sausage roll is we're going to add some feta. Alternatively, if you want to make some other type of sausage rolls that are vegetarian or vegan, you can do exactly the same process for the meaty sausage rolls and then just swap them out for vegan or veggie sausages and then skin them like we would have done if we didn't have sausage meat. So there's several different ways that you can make these kind of sausage rolls, but this is a bit more complicated. There's a few more ingredients, but they are delicious. We are now going to prep all the veg and stuff that goes into our veggie sausage rolls. So we've got our mushrooms here, just got simple chestnut mushrooms. We're just going to chop those up. So we're going to cut these in half and then we're just going to slice them up. Next, we're going to chop up this onion. Loads of tricks on to help stop you crying from onions. One of them is to put a metal spoon in your mouth. Somehow that stops you crying. I've used it before when I've been chopping like a bag of onions, and it does kind of help. Running water, opening windows, but to be honest, the main thing to help stop the onion making you cry, unless it's a particular pungent onion, is to keep the stem on. That really helps. And then make sure your knife is really sharp as well, because it's the vapour that kind of comes out from the onion that kind of gets into your eye. Next, we're going to get our sweet potato and our parsnip, and we're just going to peel them and then chop them into little chunks. The sweet potato and the parsnip in a pan. Fill the pan with so it covers the veg with a little bit of water, and then we're going to bring that to the boil. Then when it's boiling, we're going to then simmer it down. With the onions and mushrooms, we're going to cook down the onions just so they're a little bit translucent for about 2-3 minutes. Then we're going to add the mushrooms, and we're going to add some sage and a little bit of salt as well. Sweet potato and parsnips that have just cooked down. So if you want to, you could use a potato masher for this, but as I am a little bit extra, we are going to just pass it through this fine mesh sieve just to make it really, really smooth. Oh yeah, you'll need to add this on into the ingredients. Chickpeas. We're going to get our tin of chickpeas that we've just drained, pop that into the food processor, as well as our chestnuts. And we're just going to let this blend down just a little bit because they're a little bit bigger and a little bit chunkier, so we'll do that first. We're going to take our onions and mushrooms that we've just cooked down with a bit of sage and a bit of salt. We're just going to pop those into the blender as well. So we've blended this up for a little bit, but I'm going to pop this into a bowl. I'm going to give it a final mix with the spatula, and then we're ready to put it into our pastry. I'm just going to make vegan sausage roll first. I'm going to roll out our pastry. If you're using shop-bought pastry, it tends to be vegan because they use a substitute rather than butter. But just double check your supermarkets and make sure that you are using vegan pastry. Add a little bit of sesame seed on top of these, just so we know these ones are our vegan ones. For our veggie ones, we're going to add some feta. So we've got our feta here. Just going to crumble it up into our mix. With this veggie roll, we're just going to go a little fancier. We put all of our filling in the centre. We're going to do a plait rather than just rolling it. What we need to do is start overlapping them. So we go from one end over, and same, and then we just keep working down. It looks quite complicated, but it's actually quite simple. So yeah, I actually really enjoy these vegan sausage rolls. You got a bit of different texture there, and the flavour works really well with the parsnip and the mushroom and the sage.
Really delicious. I love the sesame seeds on top. I love the little bit of chestnut that you get throughout it. It tastes amazing, to be honest.
Between this and the vegan one, I probably would go with the vegan one, just out of a personal preference, but they're both very delicious.
The vegan one and the veggie one. I definitely prefer this one because of the homemade pastry. It's a bit more buttery and rich. And then the saltiness from the feta side really kind of cuts through that a little bit. Thank you very much everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to try any of these recipes, you can find the recipes on our website, including some photos of other recipes from this World War II cookbook. If you would like to check out my coleslaw, head on over to my page at Knit Slips, where there's a behind the scenes video and a video on how to make this coleslaw as well. If you want to check out the puff pastry recipe, go and check out Glory and Lil's. There's a link down below. You can find their cookbook there. Let us know what you would like to see in future episodes. Leave us a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.